when parents come for preschool tours, they often have a lot of questions about how our hikes in the forest work. How long do we go? What kinds of shoes should their children be wearing? What if their children have never hiked before and they need to stop and take breaths? Do I allow for that? How do they carry things that they might need with them into the forest? And to be honest, when I meet teachers that do not always take their children on hikes or walks, I get very similar questions. Hello, I am Nicole Dravilis-Fravel, and this is Wildwood Teaching, and today I am inviting you to take a very short hike with me into the forest to get a flavor of how we do things. Now, just like any other routine at the beginning of the year, basically what we're doing is setting up the procedures for that routine. So at the beginning of the year, when we are hiking into the forest, we are setting up really how we're going to hike, right? Not just how we're going to use our bodies, but what we're going to use the hike for in terms of using observational tools or rules for picking. So, everybody ready? I've got my backpack, and my backpack has emergency supplies, first aid kit, bear whistle, we've never needed it, and any other supplies that I think what we might need if we need art supplies or whatever into the forest. Now, you all should have your magnifying glass. I usually give children magnifying glasses that they can wear around their necks. And then when we are done with our hike and they are ready to do something else into the forest, they take them off. That way they don't lose them while they're walking, but it also does not become a choking hazard if they are doing something else. You're only wearing a magnifying glass if you are using the magnifying glass. And so we would have already, before we started out onto the hike, shown children the correct way to use the magnifying glass, because usually children will stick that magnifying glass right up to their eye, and instead what we want them to do is put the magnifying glass on the object, right, and then move it up and down until it gets to where it's supposed to be. So we've set up that procedure, right, and this is the tool that we are practicing today on our hike. And then before we start our walk, I remind the children, remember, we are going to walk with no gaps, no overlaps. This is a safety thing for us, because the no gaps is we want our line to stay together. We have one teacher at the beginning of the line, one teacher at the end of the line, and that helps us make sure everybody is with us and that we don't lose anybody on the hike. And then the no overlaps is really so that they do not bump into each other, right? Because one of the things that you are teaching preschoolers at the beginning of the year is that personal space. We do also, the other reason for the no gaps is that we do not want children to stop while we're walking unless we have talked about our stops, because when one child stops, the others may not notice behind them and then boom, bump right into them. Or if they have a big gap between them and the person in front of them, they may at some point decide to run to catch up and either trip or not be able to effectively stop themselves when they're running and also bump into the person in front of them. All right, so then we are just going to take a walk, and our idea today is to walk and notice things with our magnifying glass. And when you notice something, you can go ahead and stop and tell us, and we'll show everybody else. So one of the things that I'm noticing here, right, is this kind of dried grass, right? And I wonder what this is. Does everybody want to take a look at it with their magnifying glass? Oh, it's kind of crumbly. I get very little triangles stopping off in my fingers. Let's keep walking. Right? Let me know as you're using your magnifying glass what you notice. Oh, I am noticing here we've got some dried flowers, right? And some that are still blooming. I'm gonna keep walking a little bit farther. Oh, I noticed something interesting right here, and the children will tell me that it looks like little caterpillars are on the tree. What is this? Right? These open seed pods. Should we open one and see? Oh, there's some seeds inside. Do you want to take out your magnifying glass and take a look at it? Now we do want to be careful with this because the Scotch broom is an invasive species, but it comes in really handy for teaching moments with the children. Ooh, as I'm looking down here, I'm looking close to the ground. So we want to make sure that we are looking all over the place. And I'm seeing these kind of fuzzy bits all over the ground, right? I'm going to take a look at those under your magnifying glass. So all of the things that we are noticing right now, right, are ways that plants shed their seeds in the fall. And so that could in the future be something that we might want to investigate as a group. So that may not be what children notice on the walk. They might be noticing holes in leaves. That's a very common thing. They might be noticing the moss on the trees. If it has started raining, they might be noticing some mushrooms. And that's going to give us a cue for what we are going to learn later. But for now, all we're doing is practicing the procedure. And as you've noticed, right, it's been a little bit of time and we haven't gotten very far. And that's okay. We are not trying to get very far. Much like process-based art, our point is not the end destination. Our point is honing children's observation skills, practicing those beginning of the year procedures, letting children connect with the nature around them. That's all we want to get out of this. And if we've only gone 20 yards, then we've only gone 20 yards. Now, once we do get to a stopping point, now how do you know when it's a stopping point? Basically, you're going to know when it's a stopping point because the children are going to lose interest. And that's what I do. I just walk until it seems like no one cares anymore, right? Or only a few children really care anymore. And at that point, I will continue my walk to wherever the next clearing is, and we'll stop and we'll play, and I will remind the children, right, we're here, and if you want to keep exploring with your magnifying glass, you are welcome to do so. But once we decide that you are done with the magnifying glass, you're going to remove it from your neck and put it in my backpack so that I can bring it back when we return. Now, later in the year, as we move on in this beginning of the year procedure, we might focus on different senses. We might bring out something to practice our listening skills or to practice our sense of touch and how we interpret textures in the forest. We might practice what I call safe picking skills, right? I do allow children to pick things in the forest because that is part of how children appreciate things. But we want to practice mindful picking. We're not just running through and grabbing. And so we have a couple of procedures that we practice to have children learn mindful picking. And so then as the school year progresses, we can do any of a number of things on our hike. We can practice math, we can use it for storytelling, we can continue to hone observation skills, we can certainly have science topics that we are investigating as we walk. And so this really does become one of the most effective learning routines that we have here at Wildwood Nature School. And so if this intrigues you, I want to invite you to be on the lookout for something that I am calling 10 for 10. And that is that I am developing 10 really short training videos. And by short, I mean somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes on very discrete topics. And one of those topics is going to be what you can do and learn on a hike in the forest with children, or depending on your site, it could be a walk through the neighborhood, it could be a walk around the schoolyard, and giving you a bunch of different activities that you could do on those hikes. And 10 different ones, $10 each. There will be a break in price if you purchase all 10 of them. So be on the lookout for that. And then join me here next week for another episode of Wildwood Teaching. I will see you there.